And then, Tim Wilson, thanks very much for your time. This is an interesting speech. I've read it in full, and we're going to have a listen to Josh Frydenberg in just a moment, but a big focus on reliability in this address.
Absolutely, because in the end, the problems the country faces around energy are driven by not putting enough focus on reliability and security of the grid and price. Emissions cuts are an important part of that as well, but if you don't have reliable energy, you don't have at an affordable price, then people will be less concerned about emissions cuts. So this is about getting the balance in the policy right and making sure we get the best outcome for the Australian people.
It's about getting the balance in terms of the politics right as well. We spoke to Senior National Cabinet member Darren Chester. He seems very relaxed with where things are heading in terms of the government. Not just the Nationals, though. There are many of your Liberal colleagues as well who had quite a few concerns, to say the least, when it comes to that 50th recommendation of the Chief Scientist.
Well, I think every Liberal MP wants to see a reliable, secure grid that delivers prices that households can afford, while also making sure that we tackle any environmental challenges. You can't deal with them in isolation. You've got to understand that if you can't deliver reliable, affordable power, then households will become less concerned about where they secure it from. Now, there's multiple policy ways we can achieve that, and one of the things the Minister's outlining in his speech is that renewable energy prices are going down. And that's a fundamentally good thing, because renewable energy is becoming more accessible for people to install themselves, particularly decentralised through things like solar PV cells, household batteries as well as large-scale batteries, making it a more reliable part of the system. And the objective always was to get different energy sources off subsidies. We don't want subsidies for any industry if people can stand, or industry can stand on its own 2 feet.
And do you feel that that is happening, set to happen over the next decade? Certainly that's the view articulated by Mr Frydenberg in this speech this morning, with the costs coming down over, he makes the point, over the next few decades, by 2030, 70% reductions in battery technology, for example.
Well, I'm a great optimist and a realist. What we need to do is provide security to investors today, because we still, even between now and 2030, we've still got many years where we need to make sure people are investing in existing assets, so existing power stations, whether they be coal, whether they be gas, whether they be existing renewables for maintenance. We also have to make sure that new energy comes onto the grid while we're breaching into that gap of competitiveness for renewables. But we also have to have hope and optimism about what can be done in the future. You know, one of my favourite hashtags on Twitter is the future is going to be awesome, because technology is going to come along and deliver the reliable, affordable power that we need, but the technology isn't there in the way we need for some of them, and we're going to have to bridge that gap, and that's the focus of the government's policy, and it's the right policy direction as well.
Yeah, one of the big areas that needs more focus, in my view, is the demand side of things, in terms of reducing power usage by consumers, saving a lot of money in that sense as well. But surely the technology can be pursued in that regard as well. Let's just finish in terms of the news poll analysis. Point, though, which is you're right. Sure. I mean, we need to increase supply, but that is only part of it. There's a gap. The gap between making sure we have the energy we need, particularly in peak periods over summer, when people go back to work, but at the same time we have high household consumption. Some of it can be delivered by increased supply. Some of it can be delivered through improved energy efficiency and demand management. And when you get both of those policies working together, you get the outcome Australians need. Finally, the news poll analysis, your reading on that, because it's been certainly the view within Labor that the Prime Minister doesn't resonate in regional areas, and certainly hurting him in Queensland. But what's your view of where this analysis is at? Obviously, after a quarter of polling, it shows you're behind, but what's your sense of things?
Well, first I was talking to Darren Chester about that before, and he was saying when the Prime Minister goes to rural and regional areas, he's treated like a rock star. So I'm not sure that analysis by Labor is right. And, you know, polls come, polls go, and we all know that happens between electoral cycles. When we win, it's because we're focusing on the issues that affect Australians, and that's why jobs are critical. Focusing on energy security, reliability and affordability is critical, because that's what makes industry competitive to increase employment, and that's where you'll see the government focused over this year as well as into next year, as well as part of economic reform, and I'm hopeful of the big opportunities that lie ahead in 2018.
Liberal MP Tim Wilson will talk to you soon. Let's go.